Today, Gloucester is served by one station. This has been considerably remodelled in recent years, while both signalling and track work has been modernised. In the days of steam, Gloucester was the centre of a considerable amount of competition from the Great Western and Midland Railways. This was once the Great Western Station and was named Central. It served the former GWR's network and included services running to Swindon and west towards the Forest of Dean. The Midlands lines ran into Eastgate, with services running north to Birmingham and south to Bristol. This is the Central Station of 1961. In the early 60s, tanks were a regular sight in the station between duties on the branches. We'll now look at three contrasting local services in the Gloucester area. To Hereford in the northwest, to Sharpness in the south, and to Chalford in the southeast. The Stroud Valley, or Golden Valley, carried two well-known steam services. One was the Cheltenham Flyer, the other was the rather more humble local running as far as Chalford. Right up until November 1964, 1,400 tanks based at Gloucester operated a push-pull service running along the valley through Stroud, serving a number of halts and larger stations. There were 10 stops on the 10-mile section into Chalford. These served the mills and local industry crowded along the valley and provided the Great Western with a lucrative source of traffic. For a while, the auto trains worked a stopping service on a line which also saw the world's fastest regular steam train. The 1,400 tanks were built during the period 1932 to 1936 to a Collett design. He, in turn, based them on a much older design, the 517 class. A total of 75 were built. When introduced, they were numbered in the 4800 series. Then, in 1946, they were renumbered in the series 1400 to 1474. A total of 4 have escaped the cutter's torch. 2 are based on the Dart Valley Railway, 1 is at Didcot, and 1 is in the Tiverton Museum. To the south of Gloucester was the Sharpness branch, with its junction at Berkeley Road. Berkeley Road was on the Midland line to Bristol. Here, passengers changed to the auto train bound for Sharpness 4 miles away. This was once part of a route across the River Severn to Lydney. Its premature end as a through line came during the night of the 25th of October 1960, when a tanker collided with one of the piers of the bridge in thick fog. From that date, Sharpness became the terminus. These scenes were taken on the 4th of April 1964. By this time, the terminus had been severely rationalised. The end for this line came on the 2nd of November 1964. It was operated right up until this time by 1,400 tanks. Across the Severn estuary, further to the west, was the Forest of Dean. These wooded hills were the home of a number of classic branches. The daily freight to Colford, the pickup to Chepstow, the Lidbrook goods. Each was unique, and each was an integral part of the industry and transport network of the area. Weed-infested tracks, a pannier on the daily freight. These are all images from the past. At Grange Court Junction, the remnants of one of these lines can still clearly be seen. Until the mid-1960s, this was the point where the cross-country line diverged west through Ross-on-Wye to Hereford. The line was opened in 2 sections. The first, a distance of 5 miles from Grange Court Junction to Hopesbrook, commenced operation in 1853. The final 17.5 miles through Ross-on-Wye to Hereford opened 2 years later. At Grange Court, the crew collect the token for the single line to Ross-on-Wye in May 1964. Built by a local company, the Hereford, Ross and Gloucester, the route was incorporated into the Great Western soon after opening. The GWR used it as a test bed for conversion from broad gauge to standard gauge in 1869. Blaisdon Holt was built by the Great Western in the 1930s. The motive power was surprisingly varied right up until closure. In addition, it frequently acted as a diversionary route. The line featured some large engineering and earthworks and crossed the River Wye 4 times. It provided photographers with some classic vantage points. Ross-on-Wye was the largest station on the line. Until 1959, a line diverged away from the eastern end of the station, running south to Monmouth. By the time these scenes were taken in 1964, this had been closed and lifted. We're now heading northwest to Hereford. Closure for this cross-country line came on the 2nd of November 1964. Within a short time, the track had been lifted and the route was returning to nature. The substantial station buildings at Ross-on-Wye stood derelict for several years after closure, disused and devoid of track. By 1993, the station had totally disappeared. Only the goods shed remains. The more substantial bridge abutments a short distance away give an indication as to the course of the line.